By the way, including our musical engineer, Billy, which you guys go way back, and Ted, I can think we can all say with absolution that Linen Lion is the worst band name.
Absolutely. Linen, like
It is
a cloth.
That is so bad.
But was it?
Yeah.
It was kind of a joke, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
someday.
No, don't let him off that easy.
It
was cool,
What
man.
was the logo? What the hell was the logo, Steve?
I think it was a lion with like a silhouette of a lion. I'm not going to tell you.
A doily. I can just see it like spread across the grand piano as the scene opens to Steve furiously tickling the key.
Looks like you've gone a little off track with Eric and Ted, live from the Laid Back Manor Studios in Galesburg, Illinois.
Here's 3 of Steve Davis's bona fides.
All right, bona fides.
Oh boy.
Here's 3 of them.
He's bona fide.
Thrillsville Jam Sandwich and Neon Nova. Just those 3 epic things happening. Neon Nova right now, your current band, correct?
Yes. Jam Sandwich is
Still a thing.
hidden toward the end, but yeah.
And you never know when there'll be a Thrillsville 40th anniversary.
Man, I don't know.
40th anniversary.
We'd
text with
have to get
Shuby once
Shuby
in a
back.
while. That's not going to happen.
No.
I don't think.
Yeah.
He's pretty happy. He's out in Colorado.
Yeah. Well, Steve, we wanted you on, first of all. Well, your friend Terry Hodges suggested you, but I knew I wanted you on before anyway, because this podcast is kind of specifically about Galesburg music, and you've kind of been entrenched in it, not even counting your second career, but entrenched in Galesburg music for probably longer than I know.
40...
Careful there, big guy.
44 years.
What was the first stage paid gig Steve Davis?
First one?
Yeah.
I was in a band called Linen Lion.
Oh, boy.
Linen
Yeah,
Lion.
they were a high school band.
Yeah.
I moved from McQuan.
Shut up. It was just as good as Glass Tiger.
That's right. It was named during a drunken night. I think we came up with the name at like 3 a.m. I moved to Galesburg from McQuan.
Okay.
I lived here for about a year and a half.
Grew up in McQuan.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the band they were Ozone. They were all high school guys, but they were playing music and regularly. I went with a friend who was trying out for the band, and I think he went to the bathroom or something, and I had been singing along, and they kind of shut the door and said, "Hey,
No.
can you?" And I sang.
That's so great.
I sang like Red Barchetta or something.
In that high voice?
Yes,
Yeah.
but there were girls there.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, "Hey, wait a minute!" And so I started singing with them, and I think there's video of this. We did a gig at Park Plaza.
Oh, yeah.
In
sure.
82 maybe.
You
know,
talking
Tom Welch knows every day because Tom Welch remembers everything. But 1982, we pulled up in a limo. I had on parachute pants,
You did.
a tuck shirt, and like a red tie.
Oh,
and
no.
Just because
man.
the gig was a big deal.
And it was
for
the 80s.
us. It was for us. There were a couple hundred people down there, and
You rented a limo.
the limos were from Hinchliffe, I believe.
Oh, my gosh.
I believe. And we drove around, did the loop.
Yeah.
And there's video we're all getting out. We're pointing our fingers at the camera like, "Hey, what's up?"
Everybody's coming out of Lyncham's going, I wonder who died.
That wasn't the day the music died yet. And,
But it was close.
yeah, so there's like video of us doing
Were you a 4-piece?
no, we were 5-piece.
5-piece, okay.
And some of those guys are still in the music industry, and guitar player Brian does video game music.
Sure.
And keyboard player Howard Flint plays in a Duran Duran
Oh, get out.
tribute band in Atlanta.
Yeah.
They're called the Reflex, and they play.
Which, by the way, I'm going to ask you this: in the past 30 years, if you would have got that phone call to play in a Duran Duran tribute band, would you have joined?
In 1982, I would have said no. Now I would say, heck yeah.
Absolutely.
I would do that. They're one of those bands that we can't do Duran Duran or not rock. Now, they're one of my top 4 bands.
Yeah, I had probably a snobby period when I was listening to hair metal bands with them in the 80s.
Yes.
But if no one was around, I was turning it up.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
they were a great band.
They really were.
Yeah. Yeah.
and different, and
What? When did you win in that band as a singer? Did you already have who? When did someone say? Our little Steve Davis is a performer. Or he can play, or he's got a knack. Where did that happen?
I started playing the keys when I was in Dark Crystal, just to fill out the sound.
Okay.
So we could do like Aldo Nova, which probably Neon Nova's uncle.
Yeah. when you say the words Aldo Nova, I think keyboards, right?
Yeah. Well, because of that one song, and he's a guitar player, but he's still playing. I saw him the other day. He's still going at it. So yeah, I started doing it then.
But you didn't just I'm going to play the piano. I'm just going to learn this. You learned it on your own?
Yeah, I did. I would sit and watch MTV, and I would play along. And I can't read music. I'm not a piano player at all.
Yeah.
It's still to this day, keyboards. If I play in a band and I'm playing the keyboards, it's to back up what I'm doing.
You know the chords,
yeah,
and the rhythm moves you.
Correct.
The rhythm
correct.
is
I watch.
Move you.
It's evolved to.
How old were you when you discovered I'm going to do this? For the rest of my life. I'm going to do what they're doing when I'm watching. I'm going to do what those guys are doing.
I was 18 when I thought I might want to, and by the time I was 19, it was like, yeah, I'm doing this. And it was really strange. I was extremely quiet and shy and backwards, and I moved from a little town to a big town. Compared to McQuon, Galesburg.
This is Mark Davis's brother we're talking about here.
Oh, yes.
I know, right?
He said to tell you guys hi.
Yeah.
What's up?
Love you.
SDB.
SDB. He's actually here.
So yeah, it's I.
By the way, I didn't know you were in Dark Crystal.
I was in Dark Crystal.
I did. Were you? Are you a
Like the
founding member of
movie?
Dark Crystal?
Pardon me?
You were a founding member of Dark Crystal.
No.
Or one of them.
There were 4 guys that were doing Dark Crystal, and I started. They practiced over on Monroe Street.
Give Ted the time period. We're talking.
So we're talking early 83.
Oh.
82, 83.
Yeah.
And then
and a juggernaut in the area for a while, right?
for a while, yeah.
Yeah.
There was we had the big clubs. We had Center Stage. We had the Quad Cities. There was Wells Fargo, and there's I can't remember the other place.
And
Stage
Steve,
West.
And Steve, but at this time, you're riding the crest of what style of music?
It was hair metal.
It's hair metal. Okay,
Yeah, hair metal
All right,
for the
yeah.
most hard rock and hair metal. Tom Welch, one of my best friends, joined, and eventually Wade Williams.
A great guitar player. Mr. Welch.
Tom is amazing.
Yeah.
Tom, he's one of the most interesting people I know, and he has got a laser beam memory. Somebody posted a photo from like 83 on Facebook I was looking at, and he got right on it. He says, I remember, I looked it up. And
Of a group of musicians locally? Yeah.
Well, it was Musicland employees.
Oh, okay.
wow.
And he's like, that was October 27th, 1985 or whatever. And that's the way he still is. But he taught himself how to play. He's a big Beatles guy.
Yeah.
And he would put a record on the turntable and slow it down. He had a little, under the stairs, he had a room. It was fantastic. And he taught himself how to play guitar. And, he was a big Van Halen guy. He still loves Van Halen. But now he can play anything.
And he's a big part of the music. If someone put out the musical history tree of Galesburg music in modern times, Tom's definitely a part of it, right?
Yeah, we were wanting to put something together last year, and I couldn't make it happen. And I still feel bad about that. I would love to do like a Dark Crystal thing, but guys have passed away. We're at that age. Our friends are starting to pass, but
yeah.
I would love to do something with them sometime. Yeah, there are a lot of guys that Tom and Wade both were guitar heroes in the area.
Yeah,
and then Kistler came along and got to know Wade, and those guys were really influential.
That's pretty great.
Players.
So all the guys playing out now, you saw looking up to these guys.
Some of them,
Yeah.
Sam, I remember Sam Leon, who was a guitar player in Neon. I remember him coming to Center Stage. I don't even know if he was old enough to get in there, actually. I'm not sure how much older I am than Sam, but 5 or 6 years old, I think. But
so who's the artist you're watching when you're woodshedding there on your couch, when you're learning how to watch that video over and over? Or was there a particular band? Was it Duran Duran, or was it rock bands? Was it Rush? You mentioned them.
It was more. No, I couldn't play. I couldn't sing like Rush. By the time when I was in a band with other guys, we had a drummer, John Bierling,
Yeah.
who lives out in, I think, North Carolina now. He sang all the high stuff.
Yeah.
So we did do some Rush, and he nailed it. I don't know. There's a band, and they're my favorite band. I don't think most people haven't heard of them, but I was introduced to them by the guys in Lynn and Lion, and they're called The Producers.
Okay.
And they had a song called She Sheila. It's got a big keyboard intro on it. Their keyboard player was the first guy that I ever saw strap a keyboard over his shoulders.
Oh yeah, play it like a guitar.
He played like 100-pound synthesizer.
Were they kind of an underground? Were they a new wave type
They
band?
were a new wave band.
Yeah, yeah.
They were from Atlanta.
Okay.
So they toured with Cheap Trick. They were on Portrait, and they did one album, and then they got dropped. And then they got picked up by, I think it was Sony, and then they got dropped. And so they were kind of legendary, especially with a lot of musicians knew their work.
Yeah.
And I got for 2024, so literally 40 years later, I got to meet them.
Get out!
At Summerfest last year. My wife and I, they said we're playing. One of the guys lives in Madison.
Yeah.
And we're playing Summerfest this year. So Julie and I went up, and they played a 1.5 song and got rained out.
Oh,
But we went, the keyboard player, this guy, he's got one leg, and he's still into it, and they still sound amazing. And we just went backstage and hung out with them, and it was super cool. So yeah, that was the kind of stuff. If I could play this, and then surely I can play this. But we were doing like Loverboy,
right?
And to yeah, back in those days, it's still true today. If it's really syncopated, I can't sing it. I can't sing it and play it. So
when did photography come into the game? Was that
I wanted to be? I learned at a very young age I was not going to be an athlete, so I wanted to be a sports photographer. Probably, I remember. In McQuan, every year they would take a bus, a bunch of drunk guys head up to Wrigley. I'm a Cardinal fan, but I didn't care because it was baseball. And I remember, I think it was 75, they were playing the Reds. And I had an Instamatic camera with a little roll of film in there.
And that's like Big Red Machine time,
yes,
right?
And I still have the photos.
Yeah.
I took photos of, because, Wrigley, the last time I knew you could still walk right down.
You used to be able to. I don't know if that's the case anymore. Yeah, but yep, absolutely.
And, but I got Joe Morgan and Johnny Bench, and I still have some of those photos.
Team, yes.
My wife, my girlfriend at the time, she was an art major at Wesleyan.
Sparky Dent, the coach then? Was it Sparky?
Oh,
Sparky Anderson. Was it
Sparky Anderson? Yes, Sparky Anderson. Absolutely, yes. And I remember Bill Madlock playing third base for the Cubs.
Oh, yes.
Like I said, I don't like the Cubs at all.
But did you feel Wrigley when you were there?
Oh, absolutely.
Somewhere special.
We over the years, Wrigley has been magical. My son, we were in our Cardinal garb one time. I know I'm getting off track.
No, don't worry about it. That's the name of the show.
I am getting off the track.
Yes, that's right.
They grabbed my son. They came up and said, "Hey, you look like you're a big Cardinal fan." And he goes, "Yeah." I think he was 11 or 12 at the time. And they brought him onto the field and sat him between Al Roboski and whoever the color guy was.
Okay.
And had him. He got to read the starting lineups.
My goodness.
So and Anheuser-Busch sent us a videotape. I have the tape of him doing that and reading that, and
that's cool.
I've gotten a lot of autographs. I used to collect autographs, and I like Wrigley. That's my favorite field. I have a granddaughter now too. So.
Yeah, are you grandfather a couple times over now?
Just once.
Just once, yeah.
Just once.
Well, congratulations. That's awesome.
No pressure on my kids. She's coming down tomorrow. She lives in Madison.
Yeah,
my two older kids. So we're really excited. She's coming down and
hang
out. And, yeah.
So wait,
yeah, go ahead.
The intersection of music and photography is
speaking of intersections. Remind me. Go ahead.
Where Steve and I met many decades ago.
It's a long time ago.
You were working at the Register Mail. Yes. Kent Kriegshauser and I were hanging out a lot, and so we would bump into each other there. And then we would bump into each other at the bar.
Right.
And then come to find out, Steve's in bands, so I watched those play. To kind of get back onto that, like what took you out of the I'm going to do music as my means of getting by to I'm going to shoot and I'm just going to play music on the side?
I learned really quickly that music, I wasn't going to make money at it. I mean, in reality,
Was that like an acceptance? Like it's fun for me, but I
Yes.
know I'm not going to be Simon Le Bon.
absolutely right. Dark Crystal had a song that we released, and it was played on Q93.
Yeah.
And in fact, Rick Heath played it. It was being requested. I don't know if it was our friends or what, but
That's so great.
They pulled it because they were playing it so much.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
It
it's a
was
song-
getting a lot of requests.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's a song that Wade wrote, and when Wade continued on with music, you know,
Yeah.
he had other jobs too. But
Was there some excitement back then? Like probably the first time you drove down Main Street and you heard it one of those many times?
oh yeah, absolutely.
Were you like, we're going to be stars?
never ever
No.
thought that. You know, I've been in a lot of bands, and I was in a Christian band.
Yeah.
Masterpiece.
Yeah.
With Brett Chatterton and Paula Helly wrote some songs, and we recorded
Churchill for years, right? Paula?
Yeah, Paula.
Yeah.
She's retired. She
Wonderful.
lives down in Ellisville.
She's
and
wonderful.
She is.
Yeah.
And she plays with. I don't know if you know Brett. Brett played in.
Does she still
Stryker.
help with that theater there in Ellisville?
she does.
Yes, that's
She
great.
does.
Yeah.
I remember coming back from Iowa City and hearing the Masterpiece songs on the radio. They got played quite a bit in the Quad Cities and
Yeah.
Peoria on the Christian stations. So that stuff has happened, recorded. But I've always known that I'm just not that level. But I'm happy. I am so happy.
Did
when I'm
parents
making-
always was
do it
that
and
was that
have
always a
fun.
thing, Steve? That's great, Steve. But make sure you have a backup plan.
No, you know, really, I grew up in an extremely musical family.
Yeah.
My father was a bass player. You know, I call him my father. My dad, he left when I was 10. I was the oldest of 5 kids.
Yeah.
So, no, he really didn't.
But it was kind of woven into you then.
It
anyway.
was. On
Yeah.
a Friday night on my grandparents' porch in McQuan, you would find all kinds of musicians that would come and
A frog with a
well,
washboard.
I would grab the
And-
spoons. I was like
Yeah, you
10 and
did.
I'm playing the spoons or anything I could. You know, my aunts all sang beautiful harmonies together.
Did they have electricity in McQuan back then?
It was close, but yeah,
This will be maybe the second podcast where you've bashed McQuan. You better settle down.
you gotta watch it, man.
Better watch it. We know.
Listen, I just know I'm not buying Visine the next time. And I'll
Well,
be good.
I'm gonna say this kind of quietly. She's my cousin.
Oh, shit! Okay,
So,
so conversations shift.
Well, I was just about to say, I have
Nice
cousins.
segue.
If you guys have heard of, I have cousins who play music.
Yeah.
In the area, my cousin Brett. These would be my cousin's kids.
Mm.
My cousin Brett plays in a band called Twisted Whiskey. They play around in the area a lot.
Yeah, heard of them. Yeah.
Yates City, Brimfield area, and then there's a new band, Lacey's Ditch, that's making some waves. They're country rock. It's
Pretty great name, Lacey.
Yeah, it is.
Chris Poston's son. I can't think of
Noah?
Noah's
Okay,
on
yeah.
drums.
On drums,
My
yeah.
cousin Kyle plays in La Follette plays in that band.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So they're playing.
I thought that was another band name. My cousin Kyle. It's probably an alternative band.
I've been in a lot of bands. I haven't gotten the pleasure of naming most of the bands.
By the way, including our musical engineer, Billy, which you guys go way back, and Ted, I can think we can all say with absolution that Linen Lion is the worst band name.
Absolutely, linen, like
It is
a
so-
cloth.
That is so bad.
But was it?
Yeah.
It was kind of a joke, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
someday.
No, don't let him off that easy.
Even-
it was cool,
What
man.
was the logo? What the hell was the logo, Steve?
I think it was a lion with like a silhouette of a
doily?
lion. I'm not going to tell you.
A doily. I can just see it like spread across the grand piano as the scene opens to Steve furiously tickling the key.
All my friends in Peoria
That's
to
so
this
great.
day, including, and it was named by Eric Richrath, Gary's son.
Oh,
he
yeah.
lives in Peoria.
Oh, wow.
He's a Knox alum, and he's a great musician.
Gary Richrath, one of the founding members of REO Speedway.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, and Eric said, "Oh my God, you're talking about Lennon Liger." So it's Lennon Liger. If you remember Napoleon
Oh,
Dynamite,
yes, of
the
course.
Liger.
Yes,
So
yeah.
my friends and this Jam Sandwich guys call it Lennon Liger.
Lennon
When are we ever
Liger.
going to? Is there ever going to be a Lennon Liger reunion? But those guys,
Basically my favorite animal.
the guys that were in Ozone, get together every year up in Minnesota, and every year I haven't gotten to go yet, but they have a reunion. They get together for a long weekend and play music and kind of write music, and just it's amazing.
That sounds
it's
fun,
super
actually.
cool. Yeah.
That's pretty great.
It's they're all local guys, and like I said, one lives in Chicago, one lives in Minneapolis. The drummer is Dr. John Asplin's brother Jim was a drummer. He still gets together with him. That's the stuff that I love the most. Every musician I've ever played with is like a brother or a sister.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the fun. You get to make music with your friends and hopefully you try to entertain people. And it's for all of us. I can't speak about anybody's personal dreams, but I knew for me anyway. Even I remember when we played Ribco for the first time.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember Shuby, she was, we've done it.
Yeah.
We've done it.
Ribco was hot. And
Yeah.
you get it like a Tuesday, and then they give you like maybe a Saturday.
Yeah, we played one as a Thursday because that was the day
Yes.
the kids came in, and we played one Thursday, and then we were there four or five times a year.
Yeah.
But I do remember Shuby literally saying, "Oh my God, this is it.
This is it.
Yeah.
We did it.
It's all we ever wanted to do."
We saw Sturgill Simpson in there.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh man,
4 months later, he was on Conan, so it could happen at Ribco, kids.
Can.
Wait, is it still going? Is Ribco still
no,
a thing?
actually,
Shit.
Terry Tilka was the owner, and he retired last year.
And nobody
Nobody
wanted
took it over.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody wanted. That's kind of they're kind of rebuilding the district down there.
Yeah, sure.
So
It had its time, though.
in the Thrillsville days, we were probably more of a Quad City. If we played out of town, it's for the Quad Cities now.
Yeah.
Except for Neon Nova, we're working on taking over, but Nova's booked both directions.
Yeah.
And we're playing a lot of the big vineyards and stuff like that. That's where it's at now.
Big vineyards.
Yeah, vineyards are big.
La la.
Jam Sandwich's big gig is in Mackinac. Mackinac Valley
shit.
Vineyards. We've played for 2,500 people down there.
Holy hell.
You watch buses of bridesmaids coming in from their parties and bachelorette parties, busloads of them. And it's $5 to get in. You can't bring anything to drink with you. You can bring your own food. And there's no seating. You just set up your lawn chair, and it's amazing.
You've gone a little off track with Eric and Ted, live from the Laid Back Manor Studios in Galesburg, Illinois.
I bet someone's had the conversation about what I'm thinking about right now at some point, if they look at Steve Davis's career and go, how does he end up in all these bands? Because all three of those bands, Jam Sandwich, Thrillsville, Neon Nova, have played to massive crowds, and there's not too many times you guys play a gig where there ain't wall-to-wall people. How do you sort of end up? Is it the musicians? Is it the friendships you keep?
We have fun. I think that's the number one thing. We have fun. Don't take yourself too serious. I kind of am an opportunistic person. I met Brian Carroll, who's the leader of Jam Sandwich. He does all the booking. He's the lead singer, guitar player at a Thrillsville gig in Pekin. We hit it off.
They saw you guys play.
Yes. He came
yeah.
out because he saw we had the posters.
Who do you remember the lineup that night? Because
Me, Shuby, Kim, Tommy Guild, and Doug Boffman.
Yes, yeah,
So-
yeah. I love all the Thrillsville lineups, but that's a fun one.
That's
there.
the fun.
That's a good one. Yeah.
That was we were playing in Pekin and Bloomington. The 80s. Today the 80s are still big, but we struck the iron when it was really hot.
Yeah.
Wedding Singer had come out like 6 months after we.
You
started
literally
playing.
sadon't as it's time to maybe.
It was the music that we loved. Actually, Aaron Duke founded Thrillsville.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was founded as being an 80s band. I was coming off of playing with Masterpiece, and I'm like, I know these guys. Doug's from Gilson.
Yeah.
His dad played with my dad, many years ago.
Right.
And
Doug Boffman, great guitar
Yeah.
player.
Yeah.
Jeez
Oh,
Louise.
yeah.
and Myron, his dad, Myron Boffman.
Billy's been in
similar-
bands with Doug.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Vandal.
Vandal.
Love Vandal.
Yeah, the hair. Chris Poston
Oh,
on lead
yes.
vocals.
Chris Wilson, Aaron Duke.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Those guys were so much fun.
Yeah.
They-
Yeah.
The whole Galesburg larger metropolitan area band intertwinedness is very incestuous.
It really is.
I mean, oh yeah, I've played with them.
That the Jam Sandwich marriage happened at a Thrillsville gig.
Yes,
That's great.
yes.
Yeah.
We became great friends, and we would
Did
talk.
that night? Did he say?
No,
if you
no.
ever want to play?
We just started talking.
Yeah.
and it was probably a couple of months before I said, "Man, I would love to be in your band." Jam Sandwich. I remember Thrillsville playing at Cherry Street, and Jam Sandwich was playing around the corner at
Where at?
oh, don't even remember what it was called then.
Around the corner on what street?
Slammers on
Oh, stabbers, shooters.
Stab.
Yes.
We called it stabbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were just around the corner, and I remember we were so intimidated by that. Oh my God! Well, Jam Sandwich is in town. We're not going to have anybody, and it kind of worked out that way. But Brian and I just hit it off. We're symbiotic in the music that we love.
Yeah.
I just couldn't. It was incredible.
So it wasn't necessarily that you're unhappy with a band that you're in. You're just inspired by other people, and they're like, well, we're doing this kind of music, but we can make this kind of music.
Right. And Thrillsville was Thrillsville 1, and it was just kind of coming to an end. I was in Thrillsville twice.
Yeah.
And I was in Jam Sandwich twice.
Yes.
So Jam Sandwich has been together this is a 28 year, and I've been in 25 of those years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And but I was also
Loser.
I was in Eternity Road. Do you remember Eternity Road?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and isn't there still an incarnation that plays once a year at Maple City Cruise Night, right?
Correct. Brian Glasgow and Chris Poston
Yes.
have kept Eternity Road
Yep,
alive.
because they've lost some members over the years.
There's Don Fisher, the drummer.
Yes.
Was an amazing guy. He
Yeah.
passed away.
Yeah.
5 or 6 years ago, and I hate to get off. Well, no, I do.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
right.
to get off track.
Off track.
I talk to musicians in Chicago, and I tell them I'm from Galesburg. They go, "Oh, you know Charlie Hayes."
Yes.
He is an absolute legend. And even
He is.
Steven, if you look at even Steven's history, those guys are all still around. But oh my God, they owned Peoria and Galesburg and the Quad Cities. They were back on when you had a Holiday Inn circuit.
Oh yeah.
You go play the Holiday Inn.
I got to play Centipede while my dad was playing in the bar a few times, or those bands were around back
Yes.
then. Or Watch Your Sister. We're gonna go down to the steeplechase and see Even Steven, right?
Correct.
Why
Yes.
would they make you wash your sister?
Watch her. Watch my sister.
Oh, that makes more sense.
Yes. That's another big event. Is talking about these older bands, and the guy I walked into, Lynn and Lion was going to play.
No, you can't say that with a straight
Can't
face.
say that. We were going to play a gig at
Let's just call it L&L.
Tooties.
Double L.
Tooties.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I was not of age yet, and
Galesburg or Monmouth?
Galesburg.
Yeah.
Galesburg Tooties. And Dean Betts.
Yes,
Dean was
absolutely.
our sound man.
Yeah. He's a
And-
second cousin, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I love
Great.
Dean.
Yep.
So he was kind of our sound man. And I walked in to talk to somebody because back then you could get a signed permission slip so you could play in a bar.
Yeah.
You just could, obviously you're not going to drink or anything. But I can't remember if they were called Desiree yet, but it was Chuck Hoots and Billy Zeffo and all these guys. And I remember
Zeffo, bass player, right?
no, that's different Zeffo.
That different Zeffo, yes.
Yes, I'm sorry, Bobby Zeffo.
Bobby Zeffo.
Bill Hillier, who was the singer in LP33 before me.
Yes, yep.
And I love Bill. He had open heart surgery just like me. He's a little bit older than me, but I walked in and he was singing. It may have been Oh Sherry or something, but my jaw hit the ground. I was like, oh my God.
Oh, that's so great.
And that's what started it. Then we played a gig there. These guys were still in college. So they ended up, and they were going to college at Indiana University. So
Yeah.
after that summer, the next summer is when I found out about Dark Crystal. Jim Morgan was the bass player at the time.
I thought you were
Okay.
going to say I found out about shrooms. but Dark Crystal, whatever. Yeah,
see,
same.
this is why Steve has been in these three juggernauts and still is, because he passed on the mushrooms most of the time or all of the time.
Depending on what your employer
It's a true
needs to
story.
hear.
I smoked pot once in my life, and
Yeah.
I've never done it since. It
Yeah.
didn't do anything for me.
Yes.
And I have family members who do it. I have immediate family members.
Yeah.
It's just not for me.
Yeah.
But been
you
around.
can't play the keys on some of those big 80s anthems when you're that stoned, so I'm glad for it.
That's right.
I'm glad for it.
What are you talking about? Most of those 80s guys were fucking zooted.
Well, zooted on, yeah, but not on pot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
You throw other things in the mix.
And then so Dark Crystal, and then start playing at Center Stage,
Yeah.
which was the place to play. And
It was the place for my wife to go dance when she was younger. Yes.
exactly.
Yep.
And there were
Was
every
that
week.
in Monmouth?
Yes.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah.
In
It is
fact,
still?
it's still there. But Bill Fry passed away. The guy who owned it for years. He had a recording studio in there.
Yeah.
And a computer repair business. I went in there for the register mail to take a photo of the computer business, and the dressing room
Still
is still
was-
there.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he's like, I'll clean that stuff out. He goes, because everybody wrote on the wall there.
Was that board there with the red leather around the? He had a big board. Was his equipment gone by that point?
The equipment's gone.
Okay, yeah.
It was just that one room.
Yeah.
I've got so many stories about that room, and I never got in there. He said everything. I haven't painted it. Everything inside is the same. There's probably stuff about Billy Colvin in there.
Sure, there's. Billy probably wrote
For a
some
mediocre time call. Love you, Billy.
That's great. What?
Yeah,
So,
see, he's right. Yeah, that's right.
seeing over well over 40 years of music, Steve Davis. What do you think was, because you're right, when you had you guys had that acceptance, even though songs are on the radio. If you are going to be successful, you really do got to make that commitment and go to where it's at.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's never. There's nobody that
They're not going to
talented.
come. They're not going to come to Galesburg and discover you. It's just not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. It's not. All these talent shows, they're amazing. The people they get on there are amazing, but people are whittled down from millions.
Yeah. Yeah.
The talent that it takes to make it, and there are bands that tour, and that's kind of a different level. But if to be a superstar, it's a literally 1 in a 10 million chance.
But that said, I think the music scene, and not just rock and roll and pop, runs deep in Galesburg.
I totally agree.
You know a lot deeper. You could dig a lot deeper than I could. But even when you go into jazz, which was a little more prevalent back when Rutabaga was really hopping, but
Well, it's and they still bring in 2 years ago. For Rutabaga they brought in Bill Frisell. The same month that he was on the cover of Guitar Player magazine.
Oh, that's great.
I'm all my friends that play guitar. I'm like, you guys got to come over here, and so I get to witness it
at the Orpheum.
At the Orpheum,
yeah.
We also have Knox has the Mirza Jazz. It's a residency where they'll bring a big jazz name.
That's awesome. Yeah,
and they come in and they work with the kids, and they literally go into a classroom and wood shop with them, and then they woodshed with them.
Nikki got all that started there at Knox.
Nikki was very instrumental, absolutely.
Yep.
And and Nikki, the jazz is equally instrumental in this town too. It's just not everybody knows it. But.
Well, and you think about it, and you think about like going back to the days that we remember in the 90s and back into the 80s and late 70s, I'm going to say, that I think the difference was, and why it was such a mecca, is if you think of everything at the time that congregated here. I mean, there was no LimeWire, there was no Kazaa, you weren't downloading your music online. Like I remember when I wanted a mixtape of like new stuff that was on, I'd listen to the radio and I'd record it and then I pause and I record and I pause and I record.
Absolutely.
And I pause. And that was my like, oh, these are my new tracks, and that's how you heard it. And Galesburg in particular, like with the Knox County Fair, and you think about back in the day, railroad days. I mean, there were always great bands there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There were always things that were pulling into this area because we weren't Peoria, we weren't the Quad Cities, but all of these farm communities, and Knox County in particular had a place to like drain into and soak up. And so I think it's logical that like the talent kind of pooled here. If you think about how we consume today versus the way that we used to consume,
absolutely,
like it's totally different. And for raw talent to amass here, I think is logical for what we had at that time in our history.
And that is my overall point, even though I'm taking forever to get to it, is that there is and always has been a great scene. Sometimes it's bigger than others.
Yeah, sure, absolutely, right. And there are young bands playing now. But for a couple of years there, I just didn't see it. But now, and in Knox County, Lacey's Ditch, those guys are really good. And Patrick and Swayze, a couple of those guys are Knox County guys.
Yep.
And
Sean Kistler's still been out there doing it for 35 years. I don't know how often does Charlie still go out and play?
Yeah, he's got a band called Charlie Horse.
Yeah,
that's great. They play traditional old school country.
Think
about all.
I see him in Hy-Vee a lot.
Yeah,
how you doing, Charlie?
He comes out
Yeah.
He'll come out and watch us play, you
Yeah.
know, and he's like, yeah, Jam Sandwich, man, I don't know how you guys stay so busy.
He's the man.
I don't know how you stay so busy. That's a righteous burn right there.
That guy, yeah, well, I hope he was referring to, for our age, that we're still able to go out and play every weekend. We were talking
I
today
think he
about
was.
doing
I don't think so, but you go with that. You go with that, Steve.
If Charlie comes out, and he has done this to me personally, if you get a compliment from Charlie Hayes, I'm on cloud nine.
Right.
You know, it's just like when Kent Kriegshauser sends me a text and says, man, I saw this photo that you took.
You light up.
I do.
Yeah.
You are
absolutely.
the second, maybe even third person who sat in that chair talking about Galesburg music and has said the same thing about Charlie Hayes. Like when you get a compliment, you're like, whoa.
He is
For
an
realskies?
absolute legend.
Yeah.
And
He is, and he might be on the Mount Rushmore of in this area of modern age. But guys like Tom, and you know many more, and there's blues guys,
absolutely. Pine Street Persuaders.
Yes, I was going to bring them up. Tell me about that band.
They were just a little before
Little
my
before
time
your
to go
time,
out. But they still get together and play once. Tom Foley, you know Tom.
Yeah.
Used
absolutely.
to see PSP in all of the bathrooms in every bar in Galesburg.
Absolutely, and
Yes.
they were legendary.
Was Tom photographing them or
Photographing them and following them, and he's kind of like chronicled their history. He's got pictures of them going back to the.
He's their Cameron Crowe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tom has his own show, Blues Show, on WVKC.
Oh,
it's
that's
streaming now.
Yeah.
Kudzu Blues. You know, he knows the
I've
blues.
absolutely heard it. Yes,
Yeah.
and I knew that. Yes, yeah.
He's a historian.
He's deep.
He really is.
deep into blues.
So-
he always
Deep.
has been.
And
but
we're
I
talking
mean, like
the blues.
Yeah, like serious blues.
He doesn't mess around.
No, and I remember when I used to work at Midwest Photo, and he would turn me on to like records, and I'd be like, "Man, this is really good," and I never really understood like the depth. Like they go to blues fests all the time, everywhere, wherever it's at. I mean, that guy is. He's a cesspool of blues information.
And I look at him and I look
in
at
the
Kent.
nicest possible of
Kent,
ways.
Kent is the guy. Kent,
Oh my gosh.
you guys know, if people in Galesburg just knew the depth of his knowledge of music and his stories, his amazing stories of sneaking out of the house in Pittsfield and going to St. Louis to see bands in a blizzard, you know, and wasn't sure if he was going to get there or get home. And
Uncle Gary.
I saw the Doors for $10, you know, or something.
Yeah, he's
or the
got
Who.
like all of those. I was at the
His Uncle Gary took him to Rare Earth, but then Mom wouldn't let him go with Uncle Gary to the Stones.
So I was sitting backstage with Keith Richards taking his picture over a
And
doobie.
his photos, you know, Kent is an absolute treasure, and I'm so delighted that he has made Galesburg his permanent home because
Yes.
he's my mentor, and he brings me a lot of joy. Just sitting and listening. I'm like, you know, I have my hand, my chin in my hands, and I hang on every word because he knows how to tell a story.
Yeah,
and he knows how to do it with a camera, and he knows how to do it verbally.
A Little Off Track is brought to you by Laid Back Manor Studios in Galesburg. Ready to record your songs? Reach out to Billy Colvin at billyclvn@gmail.com.
We were talking about Tom Foley in Midwest Photo. Does that play into Steve's camera world at all?
It does. Dan Foley, which is Tom's brother, he was in my wedding, and we've been friends forever. And this all kind of came together. I used to go to Gamble Music.
Yeah.
When it was it's on Henderson Street, corner of Henderson and North, I think. And I would go in there, and Chuck Gamble would let me play with the synthesizers that were in there. I was a poor, dumb kid. I didn't know what I was doing. He had a Hammond organ in there. I'll never forget the first time.
Yeah.
I heard a Hammond organ with a Leslie speaker in person. And it was life-changing for me.
That's pretty great.
And he used to go in. I remember this story means so much to me. His wife, Hope, she took care of like all the sheet music. And I'm in there messing around, and she goes, "Oh, I've been waiting for the sheet." And it was the sheet music for Survivor, The Search is Over.
Oh, my God.
And she starts reading it, and she starts weeping.
Wow.
And she's like, this is the most beautiful song I've ever heard. And to this day, when I hear that song, it is absolutely
Lyrically, that guy's a badass.
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah.
He's an Illinois guy.
Yeah, and also the Survivor lead singer, Eye of the Tiger guy.
Right.
He's also the lyricist for Real American Hero. Yeah.
We salute you, Budweiser
That is
Carpet
him.
Man.
Same motherfucker.
James Sandwich was a
Same
Budweiser band, and we used to have recordings of all of those.
That's so great.
Here's to you. And
Yeah.
we play those when we were on break.
When I found out that was him that wrote those, I was like, what? Or he voiced them too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's so great.
Crazy.
That's
so,
awesome.
So Gamble
music was the moment.
Right. And Chuck Gamble's best friend was Bill Foley. Bill Foley he already had Midwest Photo. He started a computer company. Midwest Information Systems came from Midwest Photo. Okay. And it was on Cherry Street. And I'm like, hey, computers are kind of cool.
Yeah.
So Dan and I would go in there and play with the computers.
What year?
We're talking 80,
Oh, so they were the old punch card machines.
85. Well,
Okay.
I ended up working at Trilutions. I was micro age
You
computers.
got in early like Theodore over here.
Yeah, I was selling computers in 1990.
Wow.
And they started in 1978 and were like the fourth oldest Apple dealer in the eastern part of the United States for years. And, they sold the Black Apple and the Bell and Howell and all the old stuff. But anyway, I was so into technology and the music that I started getting into the cameras. And my girlfriend, who is now my wife, we've been together for a long time.
Yeah.
She was an art major and had photo classes, film development. So I started with film when Bill Clinton was here.
First camera.
Minolta X700.
Ooh.
Yeah. And that was our camera we
Yeah.
shared. Bill Clinton came. My son was 3, and I lived on Hawkinson right down the street from the high school. So we got in line early.
Nobody knows you take pictures yet.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
I was just really starting to get into it.
Yeah.
And we went in, and I've still got amazing photos. I was as close to Bill Clinton as I am to you guys right now.
So great.
And I remember taking those down to Midwest Photo, and I remember somebody from the newspaper saying, hey, would you be willing? They ended up using their own, thank God, they used the guy, Dale Humphrey, whoever was working for them at the time.
Yeah.
But that's when the cameras started coming in. I was already a musician and playing. My cameras got better. My lenses got better. Bill Foley and Tom would spend hours with me just talking to me. I learned so much from them.
Yeah.
I owe everything photography to Bill Foley and to Tom Foley.
That's so great because Ted has such a connection to Kent and then to Midwest Photo.
Oh, yeah.
Working there forever. And I was thinking about that yesterday. I was like, I bet Steve has to have, with all his history here, Midwest Photo's got to be that's got to be a spot.
Yeah,
for him.
and so I worked at the computer store that Bill started, and so every year we'd have a celebration, and Bill would come, and whenever we'd have a Christmas party, it was Midwest Photo and Micro Age or Trilution or whatever we were at the time.
Yeah.
And I was there for 23 years, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
No shit.
Trilutions, yeah.
Holy crap.
So
So that's probably where I first met you, getting mad because you couldn't get my Apple parts.
probably, yeah, that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
Computers are a whole different story, but yeah.
What's that first photo you were paid for?
First photo I was ever paid for would have been, do you guys know Jeff Holt? Remember Jeff Holt?
Yes.
Jeff,
Tall.
yeah, tall.
Yeah.
Most recently, when he was living here, he was doing the Berg,
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely.
editing the Berg,
Yep.
printing it.
Yep.
But he
Oh,
was
yeah.
he was doing the paper,
Yep.
which was a weekly part of the Register Mail.
Yeah.
And hired me to start doing JFL games.
Okay. Yeah.
They paid me by the photo, and Jay Redfern, who was my first friend I ever made in Galesburg.
Oh, that's pretty great.
Yeah, and I knew, he worked at the Register Mail when the Cardinals were in the World Series in '87. Jay got to go and cover them, and I love the Cardinals and I love sports. And
So those stories were great to you. You had a
yeah, and Jay was like, "Would you be interested in doing some part-time work for the Register Mail?" And
yeah.
and they hired me. Kent and Bill Gaither had just left, and they hired me, and I fell down the hill at Knox. I literally fell down the hill at a
You
JFL
didn't
game.
come on to register mail until after Kent and
Correct.
Bill left?
Correct. Like immediately after.
Guess
I
did
thought
not know
you
that.
had. I
Well-
thought you had worked there before.
No, I also had a 10-month holdover because I was working a JFL championship game at the No-Sure Bowl, decided to take a shortcut and fell. And
Knox's football field.
yeah, literally ripped my knee in half.
hell.
To this day, and the athletic directors love to tell this story to any new coach. I'm the only person to ever come off that field in an ambulance. They had to back the ambulance down. I was laying on the hill. And
I thought I'd bike ride over there a
Yeah.
lot. I thought I went by and there's a little sign, Steve Davis Memorial Hill.
Well, this is a true story. Harley, and I've known Harley for years, and I love Harley No-Shirt.
Yeah.
He put a little sign on the hill that said Steve Davis Hill.
That's so
shortly
great.
after it happened. I showed up like on my crutches one day, like an idiot, and I'm walking around, and he's like, "What are you doing there?" Going crazy.
What did you think when you were part timer at the Register Mail? Did you like? I'm a photographer.
Wait a minute. Wait, I kind of want to. I need to.
Yeah,
I
go.
need a time frame thing here.
So
you didn't come on until
2000.
Kent and Bill left.
correct,
What did you? Were you at Trilutions before
correct,
that?
Yeah.
correct. And I was at
I
Trilution.
did yell at you about Apple parts.
Well, I wasn't.
like, what the hell do you call yourself an Apple store for if you can't order Apple
You weren't
parts?
yelling at me because I'm the least technical computer person that's ever lived. I started out in IBM sales.
You are a customer service nightmare.
Yes.
Jesus.
Education sales was my deal, but then I did the books and everything else there, purchasing as the company got smaller.
Yeah.
You know,
Because you couldn't get Apple parts anymore.
well,
Dicks.
Apple. If you blame Apple, because Apple started pulling all their service authorizations,
Yeah.
and they pulled all their education sales, and so that was the end of small town computer stores selling Apple.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, I was still helping out at Trilutions at the end,
Yeah.
and
But falling in love with this
oh man,
newspaper.
it's what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Do you remember the first cover?
It didn't take long.
Really?
I
No,
worked-
because they were
'cause-
desperate.
No,
Kent and Bill had just left.
Yeah.
No, wait. But you were the only guy, so it was
No,
gonna be
no, there was another guy.
There was
No,
another guy, okay.
I was a part timer.
Okay.
And there were a couple
Sorry.
editors. There was one
It
editor.
didn't take long because I'm a badass.
They would bring in a photo editor. Gatehouse, the beginning of the end. Gatehouse
Sure.
corporate. They bought it. USA Today
Yeah.
owned 500 newspapers.
Fucked it all
And
up.
They did.
Yeah.
They truly did, and destroyed a lot of careers.
Yeah. Early.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one photo editor, Nick Adams. He's a great photographer.
Yeah, yeah.
He was named one of the
I
top.
remember Nick.
Yeah, me
one
too.
of the 30 photographers under 30 on U.S. Photo magazine. He was amazing.
That's fantastic.
And he moved. His wife was a nurse. He moved, and then they brought in Jake May.
I still want to know. The morning you went over, put the quarter in, pulled it down, pulled out the register mail, and boom, what was the
man.
shot?
If a
Is it
cover-
hard to go back?
It really is.
What was? Do you remember when
Kent
you?
Kriegshauser and Bill Gaither leave the register mail.
Steve Davis
think-
exclusive.
I think it was honestly, it was probably
I'm
a
so
photo.
sorry.
I've
I'm
seen
so
it.
sorry.
I've seen it. They're walking away, flipping him off. It's a great photo.
There was a lot of
Oh, man,
lot of
that's
politics,
good.
and
So, but are you digital by then?
yes,
You're
Yes.
digital now.
yes, the
They had been for
But
a
you
while.
lived in the other world for a little while.
I never did anything professionally with film,
Yeah.
and I never developed my own. Julie would do it at school.
Was digital for you? Was that kind of in your wheelhouse? You're like, this is
Yeah,
great.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of leeway with digital, and it only gets better all the time. But
Yeah.
the Register Mail owned a couple of Canon 1DX professional cameras. I think they were 12 megapixel,
Yeah.
but they were state of the art. But Jake May, I want to give a shout out to Jake. He's from Flint, Michigan. That's where he lives, and was nominated for a Pulitzer 3 years ago. And his work on the Flint water crisis.
Yeah.
And his
Yeah.
work
Absolutely.
this past year he had one of the top 100 photos of the year for
So he's
Time
entrenched up
magazine.
there.
Yes,
Yeah.
but he taught me so much. He taught me about community and being a real journalist.
Yes.
I was taught by really ethical journalists.
Yeah.
To this day, I don't even, if I'm at Knox and I'm working, I don't eat. I would never, you never eat when you're working. I'm the same way. I mean, like, oh, come on, just have a piece of cake. I'm like, nah, I'll do it when I'm done.
Right. You're thinking about the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, photographers are the good guys in the news industry.
Yeah.
We do the sports. we do fires and stuff like that, but usually it's heroic. But
you put a picture to those 1,000 words.
Correct.
Yeah.
But it got to the point to where the information is so available so fast.
Yeah.
So if it was a bad thing, and eventually there was an accident, I took a photo of the car because I came up on it. I was up on the overpass out on Lincoln Street, not Lincoln Street, out by Park Lane, and the accident was down below. And I made sure I didn't get the license plate in, but there were some stickers on the car, and there were people that found out that their relatives were killed.
Oh.
And I kind of talked to Jay, and that's the job of a journalist.
Yep. Kent has told similar stories.
Oh yeah,
it happens, right?
It does. It does. But it just drains you.
Yeah.
I took so much. There was a motorcycle crash on Main Street. I took a photo and I didn't. It was a stupid thing, and it was totally my fault. He was under a sheet, but his foot was sticking out, and you could see the foot in the photo. And I had some people threaten me. Really threatened me.
Yeah.
I talked to the family and just said, they were very understanding.
I bet that's the first thing you did.
It's the first thing I did.
Yeah,
Absolutely. When it was pointed out to me, it was,
I got to make this right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but now I'm at Knox and it's all.
Yeah. But those are learning moments though, Steve.
Absolutely. Because I believe that I love Galesburg. I love this community. I love it. It's got warts and all.
Yeah.
And
there's never been a time. Have you ever been to a parade or a music event or where you haven't seen Steve not only taking a picture, but then turning around and shaking the hand of the person next to him, knowing them? So yeah, what you just said, I have it written down. I was going to ask you about it, but you did the work for me. Community is what I see when I see you with the camera.
I was taught that's my job.
Yeah.
I'm saving memories, the good and the bad. You hope that the good always outweigh the bad. I had a person mention that they didn't think I had enough diversity in my photos. And I said, I can't make the news, but I'm telling you, Galesburg's a very diverse, it's a very diverse city. And but I'm not going to go out and make it be something that it's not.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so I didn't take that comment very seriously, but I took it to heart to remember that.
Right.
Like little old lady, I took a picture of one of the church secretaries at the Methodist church. And I had her up on a step. So I shot her from below, and I got 2 hate mails. Don't ever photograph a woman from a lower angle.
Oh my God.
And I took that to heart.
Yeah.
To this day, when I'm teaching my student photographers that they work for us in our office, I'll be like, when you're shooting a basketball game, if it's a men's game, you can get down low because they jump up high enough that they're looking down at the basket. But if you shoot the women's game from below, you're looking up their nose, and it's not very flattering. So but it's all a learning experience. And I had Ken around here.
And when you started going in, with such great hope, you probably didn't know. Wow, you didn't know then I was gonna learn so many lessons that because photojournalists, it's not puppy dogs and ice cream cones.
It's not. It's not. A lot of the times it is, and you're supposed.
And you found those stories. I felt like you searched out those stories.
Did and Tom Lowy was a big part of that too.
Oh yeah.
Lowy.
Yep.
Yeah, I learned so much from him. That guy would take so much heat. But he always told the truth. Integrity. He always told the truth, whether you liked it or not.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is I just told somebody this story yesterday. I was in the courtroom. There was a murder, a stabbing murder over by Hy-Vee on Main Street. Well, the judge, and I can say his name because we made peace, was Judge Shiplett. And this was after cameras were allowed in the courtroom. That's a relatively new thing. Mm-hmm. I thought of my first photo that was on the front was Nicholas Shealy walking out of the courthouse. We weren't allowed to go in, but they said,
just go stand car wash killer?
Yes. Just go stand out here and wait for him. He came out of that door, 2 fingers blazing, just flipping me off the entire time.
And you were ready. I mean, you were just.
I just motorboated the camera. Exactly. He turned at one point. He turned and he had to. He was holding his folders, and if you zoom in, you can read the stuff on the folders. He had to put his arms down like this, and I got him. So that was the first one.
That's classic.
But I was in Shiplett's courtroom, and this is the bench, and I was sitting right next to him, to his right, and in a chair where I'm down low, so I'm kind of hidden from the defendants, and the lawyers can see me,
right?
But like the jury couldn't see me.
Yeah.
But he said, and I've got a reporter there that's live tweeting, and WGIL was there, and he said, bailiff, whoever the bailiff was, we're gonna take a break and take the jurors out of the courtroom. So they took the jurors out of the courtroom, and I'm like, okay, he's got to go to the bathroom. And he's Mr. Davis, your camera is absolutely driving me crazy.
You could hear it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to revoke your media credentials for the day, and you can stay if you want to. That camera can't stay with you.
Holy hell.
And I said, well, I think I'm going to go. And he goes, okay. So I go back to the office, and they're dying because I made the news, which is what you're not supposed to do. And I have never seen him in public, Judge Shiplett. That night, I felt horrible. All day long, I felt absolutely horrible. And that night I saw him at Hy-Vee, and we both said, I'm sorry at the same time.
That's great.
He was like, this is really stressful.
Yes.
So he said, you can come back, just try to find a way to make it quieter. So I sat in that same seat, and I used my iPhone and got a picture of the defendant with his hand on the Bible and with tears streaming down his face.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So I probably wouldn't have been able to get that any other way.
That's so great.
So, again, I was doing my job, but he had a good point too.
Man, the last time I saw you out working, and I don't know who you were working for at the time, but it was the 50th anniversary of the Stearman Fly-In.
Yes.
So what was that, 4 or 5 years ago?
Yes.
Took you a while to think of that for a guy who works there.
I know, right? But it was the B-25 bomber was in town.
Yes.
And I'm out there with the EAA guys, and Steve's photographing. He's got his gimbal with his iPhone, like doing all these really superior video shots and taking pictures of himself doing it.
You
at the
can never
same time.
out-gadget Steve
No,
Davis.
you can't.
Ever.
And so I'm there on the phone, and the EAA is like, hey, do you think this is a media tour? Do you think the radio station would want to come out and go flying in the B-25? And I'm like, hang on. And so I call you because you're at the station. I call Eric, and I'm like, hey, man, fucking there's a B-25 bomber out here. They're going to fly people. They need media people. Fucking Steve Davis is out here already. You don't want to get scooped. And Eric's like, yeah, no, I'm not getting no. But he's like, hang on, let me see it. Was it Cameron that was working?
I think it was Cam that came out.
Well, no. Because he was like, hey, Cameron, you want to go on the B-25 bomber? And in the background, all you hear is like, fuck that, you know? And so Eric's like, well, I did, thanks for the offer and all that. Oh, fuck off. And then he was gone. And so I go back and I'm like, yeah, they're not going to want to go. And so they're like, well, do you think that you could talk to Eric about what it was like to go up in this thing? And then we could let you go. And I'm like, yeah, I could talk to Eric about that.
Did we? Did we have a conversation?
Fuck no.
Isn't that the one where we crawled?
Yeah, dude. That
glass
was so
floor.
awesome. Yeah. So you could crawl all the way into the back of it, into the tail gunner, and there's a little bubble. And then you go up and you go underneath the pilot and the co-pilot and you shimmy on your belly through this like 2 foot by 2 foot enclosure until you get into the glass bubble of the front gunner of this B-25.
On your stomach.
Yeah,
Oh
and
my
so
goodness.
they let us all do this. And so Steve's got like GoPro in one hand, iPhone in another. Like I'm pretty sure his left foot is firing off a Nikon. He's just like, da, 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 da. But like climbing all through this thing, like recording great.
10 months after heart surgery, too.
Yeah, right? So that's a long way of saying, who were you working for that day?
That was a register mail stuff.
Was it? Okay.
Yes. I think I was still full-time. No. I was freelancing.
Freelancing.
After my surgery, everything, they let me go in
course they did.
August.
Fucking
They
gatehouse.
fired 400 photographers the same day,
Mm.
and they fired me and Loy and Jeff Holt, Mike Trueblood,
Yeah.
all on the same day. But I still freelanced for them because I needed the money, and I was working at Menards.
Save big money.
Right.
We got to cut that out, probably. Great.
That was my second favorite job ever.
I know.
You
I
told me
remember
that.
seeing you there too, and you're
love Menards.
like, "How's it going?" And you're like, "Fuck, I love this thing. This job's great."
I literally said out loud, I was going through some manager training, and he's like, "You really like it here?" And I said, "Unbelievably, yes. I love the people. I love talking all day. I don't know shit about hardware, but I'll talk. I can find it. I just don't know what it does."
Right.
And I said, "There's only one job I would ever leave for, and that's not going to happen, because after the pandemic and after I had my surgery, they hired a new photographer at Knox. I had started at Knox,
Right.
and then the day COVID was announced, I found out I had skin cancer that I needed surgery for, and oh, by the way, you need to have a stent put in."
Banner day at the Davis house.
Man, absolutely. And went to get the stent, and they were like, they pulled me right out and said, "No, you're way too blocked. You're going to have." And then, so COVID hit. Knox did not lay me off, and I'm like, "You got to lay me off. I can't work
Right.
for 10 months. Let somebody else have the job."
Yeah.
And so they hired, once COVID was over, they hired Carla. She was amazing. A week after I said, "There's only one job I would ever leave for," she sent me an email and said, "I got a job at Arkansas State. Would you be interested in coming back?"
Yes.
So, and I've been back since. So
Wow.
That's so great.
Total of about 3 years at Knox.
All those
Over
Knox College pictures you're seeing are from Mr. Steve Davis. Neon Nova is Terry Hodges, Sean
Cisna.
yes, Sam Leon, and Mr. Bruce Nelson, and of course Steve Davis. And you guys are out for you guys. You're not messing around with this band.
No, we're pretty heavily booked for the
Spring and summer. We could get sick of a Neon Nova, but you're gonna go. You're gonna go everywhere.
We're off like this time of year. We play like once a month or so. But
Neon Nova has a great Facebook.
Absolutely, yes. And we're trying to get to our 1,500 follower. It could be you.
It
Ted.
could be.
That is awesome. Can't let you go without real quick. I know now. I don't think you were married, but I think you were dating. Farm Aid 1985. You went to the
Yes.
very first one. You and not quite wife yet, right?
Right.
Yeah.
We played a gig at the Knights of Columbus
Okay.
on a Friday night.
Yeah.
Because Farm Aid was on a Saturday, right?
Absolutely,
So
yep.
we played the night before.
Yeah.
Got in the car, drove down, got in line. She was a farmer's daughter,
Yes.
and I took my Minolta X700.
They let you in with it.
No,
They
I
He
had
put
it.
He smuggled it in and said, "Ass."
I smuggled it in. I did smuggle it in, but I had a 70 to 200, still a piece of crap, but it's a big lens inside a plastic bag, inside a potato chip bag.
Oh yes.
So they looked in. They did
Perfect.
look inside, but it was just luckily they didn't hold it.
Yeah.
And
And you pulled it out, and you get an epic picture of John Bon Jovi.
I got a picture of Bon Jovi that at the exact second that I took it,
He was living on a prayer.
He was. That song hadn't come out yet. I've got so many stories about Bon Jovi but a professional photographer that was behind the stage took the photo from behind. So I've got the photo that I took.
Yes.
And I've got
nice.
a photo of me taking the photo.
and you've
That's
posted
cool.
those both before.
I did. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I want to meet him so bad someday and just say, "Check this out, man." He'll probably
And,
say,
and what a day, because at that first one, A to Z, everybody came.
everybody. Bob Dylan,
Everybody.
Beach Boys,
Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash.
The
Can-
Bob Dylan to Beach Boys is just B to B. That's not A to Z.
You
man.
know several other local people that went, and you know Kent was there.
Aerosmith
Kent was
to
there.
Zeppelin.
Kent was on stage.
Oh, but Kent sent his friend backstage.
Yeah, and Kent was out by the light stand or
Yes.
something. You know?
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't know him at all then.
Yeah.
but yeah.
He gifted me Dylan backed by the Heartbreakers framed photo about 3 years ago.
Oh,
He
man.
goes, it's kind of blurry, but Petty's getting down there all in action.
cares?
It's a great shot.
That day
Yeah.
was. We stood. I bet I sat 20 minutes the entire day. We ended up leaving 9 o'clock that night,
Yeah.
but we were there for when Sammy came out and he said, "This is for all you tractor pulling motherfuckers." One of the greatest things. This is for all you tractor pull. And they started to play rock and roll. Him and Eddie.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Oh my God.
That's so great.
Mellencamp.
Yeah.
And every video that I've seen, like Farm Aid has archival videos.
Yep.
I'm in every one of them. Julie and I.
Oh, that's
when
so great.
Bon Jovi came out.
Because he was
Julie-
on like a catwalk, wasn't he? Was he on a catwalk?
No,
okay.
they had a like the stage, and then it went down a
It
little
went
bit.
down. Okay.
And Mellencamp spent a lot of time down there.
You were
But
thinking when Boys to Men played.
Yes.
Bon Jovi he wouldn't dare go down there.
Okay.
I had girls climbing up my back.
Yeah.
And I lost Julie. She was a couple rows behind me, but I was not going to stop. We were there basically to see him and Sammy because we were idiots.
I was going to put my camera down to save you. Every man for himself.
I love you, baby, but damn.
But that's
you
John Bon
see the
Jovi.
angle I got?
She
Leather junk.
I got to mention my wife.
Yeah.
I got to mention my wife.
Yes,
She's
yes.
we've had our ups and downs. We've been married 38 years. We just had our anniversary.
Congratulations, man.
And thank you. And I couldn't do any of this without her.
Yeah.
And we're talking about she was in college down in Bloomington. We did all the dumb kid stuff and broke up for a while and got back together and have been together since then. And
Yeah.
but Neon Nova, and this is a big thing for Neon Nova. She's been out to see us like twice. And the last one, she stayed the whole night.
Wow.
And after 45 years, if you've seen me once, you've seen me 1,000 times, So
That's so great.
It's I think she's enjoying
This
it's been a
time
long
around.
Peoria is a haul. She travels a lot. She works for both.
Of the three juggernauts, she's really enjoying this one, the
Yes.
Neon Nova.
Yeah.
That's great. And there might be some jam sandwich. And stay tuned for the 42nd anniversary of Thrillsville. It won't be long.
It won't be long.
And that's probably not far off from the right
Especially
date.
if Aaron hears this.
Steve Davis, we appreciate you so
Yeah,
much,
brother.
I
Thank you
think
Thanks
so
the
for
road
much.
you
taking the
guys.
time, man.
I do. I
Yeah.
love your podcast and
Oh, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're going to try to do more episodes.
Yeah.
please
I
do.
think you're number 15.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell SDB we said, what's up?
He'll listen to this. I told him I was heading over here. He goes, "Oh my god!" But you mentioned him on Terry's podcast too.
Yeah. And we're going to get a picture and you don't have to take it. How about that?
Yeah, that's the best part. Awesome.
That wraps up this episode. Thanks for spending some time going a little off track with Eric and Ted.